Yes. First of all, congratulations to all of you. It has been amazing to see all of your accomplishments and your commitment and dedication to excellence. And more than anything, it's been amazing for me to share this experience with all of you as a recipient of the Gloria A. Hubs, as well as the wonderful achievements in other categories. I wanted to offer a piece of encouragement, as we all can imagine that this world has truly felt as if it were upside down and we were just in this disjunct place. And so because I want to ensure that I'm being respectful of the time that we have here, I'm going to stick to this script that is definitely from my heart. And I hope that all of you can receive this. First and foremost, I know that this has been a year unlike anything we've ever experienced before. And I would be lying if I told you that this hasn't been a year that I had to use in an effort to remind myself of the inherent strength I almost forgot existed. One of the simplest and yet most powerful words of encouragement that I find myself being moved by throughout this difficult time is the realization that circumstance and condition does not determine my identity. However, what does determine my identity is my character, the compassion, the love that breathes and lives in my heart, and the power of how I choose to respond to the challenges life throws at me. To begin, many of us have lost family members, friends, and loved ones. We have observed closely and from far and wide the deadly nature of a novel virus that has brought our global village to its knees. We have observed the disproportionate disparities in health inequalities targeting underprivileged, underrepresented, and underserved populist demographics. We have experienced the fragility of our democracy and national security. We have encountered the cyclic representations of institutionalized oppression and racism, and further, the systemic injustices that have operated as a divisive method in bending the beauty of unity and the power of spirited fellowship. In some form, we seemingly have lost hope and have forgotten that everything that we were created to be already lives inside of us. I would like to share a story with all of you. When I was about 19 years old and had just moved to Los Angeles, I was sitting at the dining room table following a meal and having a stimulating conversation with one of the many blessing angels that I have been so fortunate to have a part of my life, my Uncle Phil. Somewhere along the lines of our conversation, we began to speak about a particular early childhood experience that has stuck with him. He spoke about the time where he was in grade school and had a substitute instructor. The instructor walked into a room filled of energetic and overly enthused grade school children. He didn't say a word as the children continued to engage in their playful banter. However, in a moment of a democratic process, one by one, students began to silently simmer down. As the instructor noticed the transition, he seized at the moment to acquire control and asked the question many grade school children would like to hear: who wants to play a game? And as you can imagine, or probably guess, every student frantically raised their hand, shouting, me, 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 I do, I do. The instructor began and inquired, who wants to be in the first group? Every student raised their hands and shouted again, me, 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 I do, I do. He chose a few students and told them, all of you will represent every field, every plant, all of the grass, rocks, you name it. He inquired for a second time and asked, who wants to be in the second group? And like the first time, every student raised their hands and shouted, me, 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 I do, I do. And and just as he had before, he chose a few students and told them, all of you are going to represent every ocean, pool, river, all of the bodies of water in the world. Lastly, as he turned to see his last group, they all looked at him and asked, what are we gonna do? He responded, all of you have a very special job. He continued, you're each going to take a pebble, a rock, a flower, a rose, a seed, and gather as much as you can, and you're going to take it really high and drop it. As the children began to prepare their missions and rally into their respective teams to fulfill each of their objectives, the bell rang following the first try of their mission. My Uncle Phil asked me, what do you think this teacher was trying to share with us? And following with a brief pause, I responded, perhaps he was trying to teach all of you that no matter how small you may feel and think that you are, you inevitably represent a significant presence in the world. The smallest droplet of chemicals and or water can cause an explosion, and even pebbles can create rocks, cracks, and damages to a world filled with rocks. Some of the smallest seeds have given birth to some of the largest creations. And in this moment, I would like to encourage all of you to think of what the world would be like if you never existed. I would like to encourage all of you to ask yourself, without question, What would the world be like if I never existed? You have shifted the culture, the presence, and the prominence of the world simply by existing. Oftentimes, we are burdened by circumstance and condition, and we feel inadequate and unworthy of the lives we've been afforded. We walk into rooms with our heads hanging low, our spirits lingering in the dumps, feeling defeated and allowing the presence of temporary distress to rob us of our lifelong joy. And in this year, I know many of you have felt perhaps the lowest you have ever felt, having to bear the fatigue of Zoom University, breathing and speaking through the interim and very necessary solution of mask, facing the consistent challenge of staying encouraged and inspired, pushing the snooze button one too many times. And rolling around until your body finds a peaceful home, battling food insecurities and domestic suffering and trauma, pulling your hair out in response to environments, setting the stage for punitive realities rather than supportive ones. We are one. I am you, you are me, and we are one. I encourage you to breathe and live in this moment, to really feel the capacity of how you are, who you are, and what you are in this present moment. You, my friend, are a part of a historical lineage. We are, we have, and we will continue to breathe and to be modified versions of our ancestors' breath. This is our history book moment. And how fortunate are we to say that we have experienced and lived through one of the darkest moments of our global village. And as we walk toward the passing chapter filled of uncharted adventure, I ask you to remember one thing: your circumstance and your condition does not have to be a marker for your identity. You have the power to change the world. On your darkest day, ask yourself, what can I do to get through the presence of now? What do I have control over? How can I critically evaluate said situation before I choose to respond? One day, when the world reaches a sense of new normalcy, we will be the historical figures living to tell our stories, and thus being charged with the freedom to bend the rules and create new worlds for the people who look like all of us in this very space, pushing for the continuum of keeping hope alive, boldly and unapologetically standing in your truth and granting the world the power of your most authentic and unapologetic self. My friend, there is no one like you in all of time. I am you, you are me, and we are one. Thank you.